Hello everybody, it's PJ from Entegra Coach Motorized Technical Training. Today we are going to do our 2025 delivery walkthrough of an Anthem. So if you want to take a walk with me here, we're going to go right around the coach, just start right here at the front, and we will go all the way through the coach and do our delivery process, just showing you the things that we would hope that the dealer is showing you at the time of delivery. We know there's going to be a lot of information, so we're just going to kind of touch the high points right now, and then we will follow this up with some in-depth videos of each one of these items as well. That will be out on our website soon, so take a look for those. So we're going to get started right here with our keyless entry. Right from the front of the coach, simply to use our keyless entry system to lock your doors, you just press and hold the 1 button. That will allow your doors to lock. You hear the alarm chirp there. And then to unlock, you will put in your personal code, which is 5 digits. They're all coming from the factory with a default code. So we would just put in this 5-digit code, then by simply pressing the 1 button after your 5-digit code, that will unlock just the entry door. So there's several different options you can have here. You can put in your 5-digit access code and then hit the 2 button. That will unlock the entry door and open the cargo doors as well. So there's many different features. Again, we'll be going over that in an in-depth video of how to set those codes, your access code, authority codes, and that sort of thing. So we're going to go ahead and move back down on the coach here. In passenger side door 1, see there I just locked it, so I will have to go up and unlock that. So by doing that next number down, it went to the entry door and to the cargo door. So now we have access to our cargo doors. So inside the passenger side door number 1, you will see the exterior freezer, kind of just wide open. When you open the door, you're going to see that. But up here in the corner is going to be a small remote. We'll start with this guy. This is going to be for your Girard awnings. So all we're doing here is, this is a remote control for the Girard awnings on the side of the coach. That's up top. They're your main patio awnings. You have channel 0, which will operate both of your awnings, channel 1, which operates the front awning, and channel 2, which will operate the back awning. So that's a good tool to have for your awnings. We'll put that back in the cradle here, and then we'll talk about the exterior freezer. So this is exterior freezer cooler. It is got 2 separate compartments in it. The control pad is over here on the side. Now this does have a couple features in it. You can set temperatures on both sides. You can, if you wanted to, take this out. We leave the handle on it, but you will have to flip that around to be able to use the wheels and the handle. Again, controls are here, and we are operating this freezer off of 12 volts. So it is much more efficient to use the 12 volt. We're not actually putting 110 in this cabinet for you to operate that. We want this to run off the batteries rather than off of a 110 source. So that is your exterior freezer. Again, we'll have an in-depth video on the settings of that and how to utilize the freezer. Before you drive away, you do want to make sure that that is latched in place, so both sides are locked in place. Otherwise, that could be rolling in and out while you're driving and cause some damage to the door. On the next compartment back, you're going to see that we have the cargo tray. Now, this is a powered cargo tray, so the switch is actually on the door itself, and we'll go ahead and run this out. One thing in particular that we want to talk about with this cargo tray is the load limit. So you can see as we run it out, it does have the sticker right on the front. The load limit on this cargo tray is 1,000 pounds evenly distributed. So you want to make sure that you basically distribute that load across the entire tray. What we don't want you to do is put a 600-700 pound toolbox here and just a couple lawn chairs on the other side. That's not getting equal weight across the entire cargo tray. So then that kind of wears on the bearings a little bit. So we want to make sure that we have that equally balanced when we're putting anything in the cargo tray. This right here that you see in this cover is the screen door. That's going to be shipped loose. That is a removable screen for your entry door. It just gives you a little bit better visibility by having that out. So we leave that out while we're driving the coach. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in. And we'll just go straight up right here to the outside TV. So outside entertainment center is going to have your TV and your radio. So the speakers here are going to act as your speakers for your TV system. The radio itself has several functions where you can use Bluetooth. You can Bluetooth directly to it with a device. You can use the dash radio inside. We'll also play on here so you get your Sirius satellite radio to the outside stereo. As well as hooking up a USB here, we can put a USB, maybe put some MP3 files on a USB, and you can plug that in here and play it through this radio. It does have FM on it as well. So many features that you can do with this. The TV itself is on a tilt and angled arm, so simply just pull out like this. And then you can change this where you need it. Maybe you got some glare on the coach as you're sitting there. Another thing that is in this compartment, for those that may be a little vertically challenged, is this little tool right here. This is simply to close that door. So we've had a lot of people say, hey, I can't reach that door when it's all the way up. So this is now the tool to be able to do that. Simply grab a hold of that latch there where you can grab a hold of it. And there is a couple little clips down here in the bottom of this compartment where this will lock into place. So we're just gonna snap that back into place here. And then you can close that cargo door back up. All right, so we'll move back to the next cargo door here. Again, this is gonna be another tray. Same thing, it is a power tray as well, 1,000 pounds equally distributed across from side to side. The other item that is in here is your vacuum cleaner. So we have gone to a Shark vacuum cleaner that you can use inside the coach. We had a central vacuum system. We still have that for a dustpan, but we wanted to go to this so that you could use it anywhere in the coach and you weren't restricted by a hose or any other attachments. So that's going to be shipped loose inside the coach. In this next compartment here, we're going to talk about a few electrical things. You have your battery disconnects here on this very front wall, and then another battery disconnect on the inside. And then there's going to be some fuses and breakers that we'll take a look at inside this compartment as well. So your breakers here are going to be your main battery disconnects. You want to use those anytime you're putting the coach in storage. That gives you the ability to shut everything off in the coach so there's no parasitic draw. This is the solar controller up top here. Now that is operating all the time regardless if we turn these breakers off. We will still have a solar charge going to your house battery. So keep that in mind if you ever store it outside. It should be charging all the time from your solar panels. So let's get inside here. We're going to take this Velcro panel off. Let's get inside there and take a look at those fuses and breakers inside this compartment. All right, so inside this compartment, this is just a Velcroed panel, so easily to take down just like that. Now on the back side of this, there is a label here that is for this M1 component inside this compartment. Some of the things we want to show you in here, obviously we've got our fuse panels, so 2 separate fuse panels here. To get access to the fuses, this little yellow knob here, just push down on that and this will come off. Pretty simple to get that off of there. And then getting that back on, just push that on until it clicks. You have a series of mini breakers right here as well, so those are points that we may have to check over time. And then this controller right here is the M1, that's for our Firefly system. That is the entire communication system, the automation system that we have in the coach with the touchscreen inside. A couple solenoids here, our battery disconnect, so anytime you use the main power switch just inside the entry door with a little red light beside it, that's what this is activating. And then this solenoid here is going to be for your battery boost. So that's the battery boost or auxiliary start switch we have on the driver's side console, and that charges both the house and the chassis batteries. It can link those together so that you can create a charge. If you ever had low batteries on one side or the other, we can link them together and use them to start the coach or maybe even start the generator if you had low house batteries. So that kind of sums up what we've got going on in this compartment. Let's head down the rest of the coach. So in the next compartment is going to be our fresh water tank. This is just a visual gauge here where you can see the level of water in the fresh water tank, and this is your gravity fill. So you can put a hose over here, stick it right in the gravity fill. You'll have to hold it in there, keep that tank filling. You can watch over here. The thing about the gravity fill is that when you use that, you are not filtering the water before it goes in the tank. So little more chance to get some sediment introduced into that fresh water tank, but not to worry. Before your water gets to the faucet, if you use your water pump, it is being filtered through the whole house filter when we take it out of the tank. So essentially, you're getting filtered regardless of how you use that water. So cool thing about the gravity fill. So we'll come back here towards the back and look at this small door here. This is going to be our dual def or our def fill tank here. That's the def tank inside. And it does have dual def, so you'll have a def fill on the opposite side as well. We'll look at that when we get over there. And a couple more things inside that compartment. So there is a small mana block for the air leveling system. The valid air leveling system has Schrader valves in here where we can manually air up any of the airbags on this coach. So should maybe one go out or we lose control of that system where we can't tell it to air up a single bag or something and the coach had to be towed, we could come in here and air up each one of those airbags individually just to get the coach back on the road. The other thing that's in here is a small little lanyard. We're going to discuss these as well. That little lanyard there is for your brake tank. So the Safe Haul braking system that we have installed on the coach has its own separate tank for air pressure. And what that can do is it can collect moisture in there just like any air compressor that we have at home. It collects moisture. We've got to drain that out. So by simply just pulling that lanyard right there, it'll spit and sputter a little bit and let that pressure out. It's going to let any of that moisture out first. So we want to make sure that we're doing that every time we drive. There's some other lanyards on the coach that we'll discuss too that you guys need to be checking. That's a regular maintenance item that we need to be verifying we don't have moisture building up in our air system. All right, so that's what we have in the def door. Coming back here to the next door is going to be your engine run center. So this is going to have our chassis batteries in it, as well as some fuses and breakers, and we'll give you a little idea of what these fuses and breakers are for. So this bottom one right here is what goes to our house batteries. That's what's connecting our chassis batteries to our house batteries. That solenoid we talked about with the emergency start, auxiliary start switch, that's what this is governing here, is allowing us to connect those two banks of batteries. This breaker here is for the engine, so what that does is prevent you from starting the coach. If we would turn this off, it prevents you from being able to start the coach. That's key when it comes to a technician working on the motorhome. What we want them to be able to do is turn that off so that if they're back here inside the engine and somebody doesn't know it, somebody can't accidentally turn that engine on or start that engine while they're back here working on it. So that's really a safety for the technicians as well. Inside this compartment right here is all the fuses and relays. That is going to be for the chassis. So this is just a 1/4 inch turn, and then that comes off, and there is a label on the inside. It's got everything listed and labeled. The key thing to take away from that is that it's going to have your trailer fuses on it. So the trailer brake, the trailer turn signal, stop lamps, all of that is going to be inside that compartment. I don't think I got that. There we go. Got that locked on. There it is. And then a couple more breakers right here. One of these breakers is coming to us to operate your engine door, and the small little fuse there is just our chassis sense wire that tells the Firefly system inside what the voltage is on the chassis batteries. So we're going to take a second here. We're going to lift up the engine hatch right here. That's going to be the switch inside this compartment. So I'll switch sides with you. And it does take a few seconds for that door to go up, but then we're going to go back in the engine compartment and show you a couple key things that you need to be looking for, things you need to check every time we drive the coach, fluid levels and things like that. All right, now that we have that engine hatch open, look at a couple things that's inside the engine hatch itself here. This first one we're going to come to is your coolant reservoir. They are using final charge as their coolant, so we'll want to verify that this has fluid in it every time we use our coach. So before we start, we want to make sure that that has that orange, kind of red-orange fluid in it. This right here is where we would add engine oil. This is going to be your hydraulic fluid. This has a dipstick on this as well, so we can pull that out and check the fluid of the hydraulics. This is going to be your transmission, where we would fill it with transmission fluid, and also where we would use a dipstick, but there's a different way to check your transmission fluid. We'll talk about that at the shifter pad, because there's a digital way that's much more accurate than using that dipstick. There's going to be your oil dipstick to check the oil level. This little guy right here is for your block heater. So the block heater is an electric element that goes into the engine block. What that's doing is going to preheat your engine oil. Now we do have another way of heating this engine as well, so we have a preheat option on our Aqua-Hot. It's probably much more efficient to use the Aqua-Hot as an engine preheat, but we do have this on the engine itself. Anytime we would want to use this is just when we get into sub-zero temperatures. So I highly doubt that we're going to have the motorhome in that temperature. You know, around here when we're manufacturing them, yes, we will have it in that temperature, but as a retail owner, you're probably following the sun and you won't be needing that block heater, but it is there. All right, this little guy right here is what we call the air minder. So what that is telling us the lifespan of the air filter. So the air filter builds up pressure in it, creates a vacuum, and that pulls that meter up. Now we do want to reset this, so before we come back, you know, if we walked back here and this was all the way up to the red, before we would say, okay, I've got a clog in my air filter, what we want to do is be able to reset this first. So we just push on the bottom of it, and you see that little yellow line goes down. Then we want to go back up and start the engine and allow that to build pressure again, just to test it and make sure that there wasn't just something fluked out and it caused it to go up. And it may not really need to be changed, so we need to verify that that pressure is there. The other things that are back here around the engine compartment are down at the toe. This is our 7-way connector here, and then this is that toe brake hookup. So it's already pre-plumbed. for the safe haul tow braking system. Now you would have to have that installed on your tow vehicle as well, and then it's just a quick connect for the airlines. So that kind of wraps up what we have back here in the engine compartment. Let's move around to the other side of the coach and start going up the driver's side. All right, so the first thing as we come up from the engine compartment on the driver's side is going to be our dual def door. So this door simply, it does have a key on it, but you can open that up, and that will be your dual def fill, so we can fill from both sides with the def fluid. That's key when you're going into a truck stop somewhere. You really don't want to have to get out, turn around, and pull back in there. Truckers usually look at us a little funny and don't like us at that point, so the dual def is definitely an added bonus. As we're coming up forward here, we'll see here on the side of the coach another hatch. This is going to be for your macerator hose. Now that is installed and connected all the time, so what we're going to do is just grab a hold of that macerator outlet here, see if we can finagle that out. So this is going to be your macerator hose. It is key that you keep a hold of this because this does come off. It's not attached to anything, so make sure that we hang on to that, don't lose that fitting. That's going to be key for you. So this stretches out 21 feet. You would just hook this up to your campground or at your dump station, and then we'll show you how to use the macerator inside. So if you got to the point where this is too short, what we don't want to do is stretch this out, try to force it where it's really not long enough, and we don't want to force it past that because it could tear the hose. That's what this little guy right here is for. So this will just take a regular garden hose. We take this off here. You can hook up a regular garden hose, and with the macerator system, what's unique about it is you can hook up a garden hose here and you can discharge through a garden hose. So it may not be the prettiest sight in the world, but you have the availability to do that. The macerator is actually equipped to pump 250 foot in a 1-inch incline. So pretty impressive, pretty strong pump that'll house that in. Now, a lot of people struggle with this, getting this hose back into this compartment. So I'll give you a little trick on how to do that. When you're done emptying your tanks, obviously we empty the black first, then the gray tank. When you got all that cleaned out and you're done and want to put this back in the storage compartment, it is helpful to leave the gray tank valve open. That way this doesn't create a airlock inside the hose. When we open that gray tank valve, that allows this to scrunch down a little bit, and you don't have to use as much pressure to get this hose back in. So we're going to go ahead and try to get this hose back in there in place. So it fits in there just like that, and then we can latch that in place. This little sensor up here right above that is the blind spot monitoring system. You're going to have 6 sensors, 3 on each side. Another one of those nice features that we have on the coach that gives you a blind spot detection anytime somebody's beside you. So if we open this compartment here, we are getting into our wet bay. There's a few things we're going to discuss in here, actually quite a bit that we're going to discuss in here, but we want to take you through the whole process. So if we're putting water into the coach, that's what we would use this hose reel for. This is simply just pull straight out, hook it up to your post. Anytime you want to retract it is this switch right here. So it just goes back in, and once it's in, it'll release that pressure off of it as well. So that is pre-hooked up to our inlet right here. The inlet has a check valve in it. It also has a screen. So anytime we get into any bad water, you think you've got some buildup in water, it is a really good idea to be using a filter out at the post as well. So we're filtering that before it goes into that hose. So we could filter it, get it in, it goes through the inlet, then it's going to go to the tank or into your city fill. Regardless, it's going into your coach, but it all determines on how you have this valve right here. So this valve is your city fill or your tank fill. When you've got that hooked up and you just want city water, you leave that in the vertical position. If you're trying to fill your fresh water tank, you'll take this and turn that valve to the horizontal position. That will allow you to fill the fresh water tank. So this next little inlet right here is going to be for your flush. That's a tank flush inlet. We want to get a dedicated hose for that flush system. We don't want to use the fresh water. We don't want to be swapping these over to the other one. We want to use a dedicated hose specifically for flushing out our tanks. So the way that works is you will hook your hose up here, and then depending on what tank you want to clean out is where you'll have that lever. So we can do a gray flush and a black tank flush. So that is what this lever here is for. So you just follow those instructions, put that valve where you need it, and it'll do both for you. As we're going across the panel here, this switch panel here is going to be just for our light on and off, so that will turn the light on and off. Then we have this other feature right here that says tilt and untilt. So what we've done is we've put a tilting system in the coach. It does allow us to drain those tanks a little bit better, by tilting the driver's side of the coach down. So you're parked at your campground or you're at the dump station, simply have your engine on. You want the engine running because we need air pressure to do this. If you come out and hit the tilt button, what that will do is it'll drop the driver's side down slightly. It's not a whole lot, but it drops it down slightly, allowing that contents of the tank to run out a little bit better and a little bit smoother. So when we're done draining our tanks, we can simply just hit the untilt and it'll go back to normal ride height. The next switch right here is for your macerator. So you're only going to want to use that when you're currently using the macerator. So when we're actively dumping the tanks, we will want to use that macerator switch. We don't want to leave that thing on and overheat. Now there is protection in the macerator as well. There's a thermal fuse in there that if it does overheat, it will trip that and then it will take some time to reset. So be mindful of that. As soon as that tank starts to empty and you hear that different sound and that hose stops moving a little bit, then we'll want to turn that macerator off because it is clear and empty. The other things that are on the wall here, obviously our tank valves here, so our gray water tank and our black tank. Then we have a monitor panel here. This is all duplicated on your Firefly system inside, but this will tell you the level of your black, your gray, your fresh, and your battery level, just giving you another 12-volt battery. This guy right here is our whole house filter. It does have a tool right here to be able to take that filter on and off and change out that filter. So you'll want to be changing that filter about every 6 months. You want to change out that whole house filter. Depending on how you're using your coach, you may want to change that earlier, or maybe it could go a little bit longer, but generally we see 6 months is about the max. You might want to get it earlier changed out if you get into any bad water. Maybe you're in a campground that has some of that sulfur smell water. We might want to change that filter out a little bit earlier than the 6 months. We have two separate faucets here, one at the bottom and one at the top. The faucet down at the bottom is for right here using in the wet bay. So inside the wet bay we have, and we'll take this wall off here in a second, it's just a little thumb screw. We'll take that off and there should be a hose behind there that has a quick connect on it. So that will connect right into that faucet. That gives you hot and cold water right here at the dump station. Maybe you're spraying out your dump hose, anything like that, or just need to wash something down here outside. That's what you would use that for. The faucet that's up at the top, that actually goes to an outlet in the front cap. So right inside the generator door, there's an outlet there. The reason we put that in there so that you have the ability to wash the front of the coach off. You drive to your next place, next resort, next campground, and end up getting some bugs on there, different things, and instead of having to get out the bucket and everything, you could just take that hose, put it right up there. You'll have hot water right at that front generator compartment, where it makes it a little bit easier just to clean the front of that coach off. So we're going to open this door up here and show you what's behind there. There's a couple things we want to talk about behind here as well. So let's get into this macerator compartment. So with that door set aside, you're going to see we do have this hose in here. So this is going to be a 30-foot hose, all coiled up. I know it doesn't look like 30 foot, but this is the quick connect. Then you have your nozzle here. This will hook up directly to this faucet or up front to that faucet in the generator compartment. The other things you're going to find loose in this compartment. Number one is going to be this guy right here. Let's see if we can get that out of here. So this is a 90 or 45 degree fitting. That simply goes on the bottom of the coach because we do have a 3-inch drain on the bottom. So it's going to hook up just like this, the bottom of the coach, in case you ever had to use the old stinky slinky, as we call it. That would be the 3-inch dump through the bottom of the coach. The other things you're going to find in here are a couple filters. So this filter here, number one, is for our whole house filter. Now we're not going to put any of these here at the factory because we do winterize every coach before it leaves. So that's going to fit in here. And then we do have another filter that's in here. That's going to be this filter. So this filter here would be for your drinking water or for your ice maker. You can see there's a blue pipe right here. That blue pipe is the bypass. Make sure we hang on to this blue pipe. We do not want to lose that blue pipe because you may have to put it back in. Anytime you winterize your coach or anytime you sanitize this system, you will want to put this blue pipe back in, take the filter out. So this will just go in here, twist these off, twist that one off. This snaps in here and you can twist those right on. You got your filter in place. A couple other things we want to show you inside this wet bay is there's what we call the mana block down here. So what we've done is we've taken all of our freshwater lines, our input lines, our supply lines, and we've put a valve down here in the wet bay. So from here, from this valve into the fixture is what we call a home run. There are no other fittings in the floor. There's no other fittings other than where it connects to the fixture in the coach. So that's something that's very unique about the system, is that you have the ability to come down and, let's say we had a loose connection at one of our faucets, one of the lavatory faucets, we could come down here and just turn off that one single line that maybe has a loose connection inside, eliminating that issue, and you can still use the rest of your coach. So another set of valves that are in here are these two dump valves. So one of them is open right now. We have a 3-inch valve right here. That is going to be going to your emergency dump that comes out the bottom of the coach, and just behind it there is another valve. It's got a gray handle on it. That is for the 2-inch valve. That's what's going to come out of your macerator hose out here as well. So that's a couple of valves that you need to know back here. Now there's 2 more in here that we're going to talk about, and that is going to be one coming right off the fresh water pump. So there is a valve on the output of the fresh water pump, and what that's doing is preventing backflow. Anytime you're hooked up to city water and you're actually using city water, you're not pulling any water out of your fresh water tank, we want to have that valve in the off position. What that's doing is eliminating the backflow through the system and backflowing through the fresh water pump into the tank. We've got some customers call and say, hey, I've been sitting here for the last week or so, and all of a sudden my fresh water tank was overflowing, but we didn't have the valve turned on. Well, it's just pressure that's built up in the system, and it backflows through the water pump. So turning that off will eliminate that issue. The other valve we're going to talk about is right here. So this valve is something new on the 2025. This is actually going to the water softener prep. So we'll look at that up front. We do have a place in the front of the coach here for a water softener system. And so this valve right here is what will turn that on and off. We want to have this in the bypass position if we don't have something in there. And when we put a water softener in, we want to take and close this valve so it forces it through your water softener. All right, so that kind of sums up everything that we need to really discuss in here. There are a couple more valves, low points and things. We'll get into that in depth and in detail. Make sure you check out those videos, and also we have all that covered in our user guide as well. So we're going to go ahead and put all this back together, and then we'll get back up to the next door. All right, so the next compartment up is going to be where we have our shore power and the Aqua-Hot. So a couple things we'll talk about in this compartment as well. Number one, our shore cord. This is just on a reel, so it should be free flowing on the way out. And then there's a switch up top here that when we press that switch, it will retract that. And again, it relieves the pressure. So that is normal. Once you let go of the switch, it will stop, and then it will allow some to come back out. The Aqua-Hot is also in this compartment, and the controller for the Aqua-Hot is on this back wall. But again, we don't have to get back in there and use that controller all the time, because it's also on our Firefly system, so we can operate that from inside the coach, and we get all the statuses inside as well. When we go over that screen inside, we'll do a little in-depth on that. The things we want to look at out here is that reservoir. So on the reservoir itself, we want to make sure that our coolant level is in between that cold and hot line. We don't want it to go below the cold, and we don't want it to go above the hot. If it gets above the hot, it'll boil out. So just keep maintaining that. You do have annual service on your Aqua-Hot as well, so you'll need to change out the fuel filter and the fuel nozzle. And you can see the owner's manual for the Aqua-Hot will give you some explanation on that. A couple more things here. Inside here on this plate, you're going to have a 110 outlet, and then you will also have your cable hookup. So for part cable, if your campground has cable available, you can tie a coax line to that, and it will give you the part cable into the coach. The other thing that is there is an auxiliary port for your satellite dish. So we put on there, I believe we put on there for a yard dish or a stationary satellite input. So what that would be is if you had in a facility, campground somewhere where you can't get the roof mounted antenna to pull in any signal, you could get the yard dish, set it outside, and get it outside the trees maybe, and then hook it up to here, and you would have that inside to your satellite receiver. So just a second option on your satellite system. All right, so we'll go into the next compartment here. This is kind of going to be the same thing as what we had on the other side. It's just going to be the cargo tray, switches on the walls here, again remembering that that is 1,000 pounds evenly distributed across there. Now there is one compartment inside this particular cargo door that is up here on top, just a carpeted box that does house our Wi-Fi system and our camera system as well. So anytime we have any calls or anything about that, that's a place that we need to realize those components are. We may have to go down and reset some of our Wi-Fi every once in a while, just a normal thing that happens. So you would have to get access to that compartment as well. So that is in driver's side door number 3. This door is pretty much going to be the same, just with our cargo tray. Again, 1,000 pounds evenly distributed across the tray, and the switch to operate is going to be right here on the cargo door itself. Oops. So the next door here, this is where we're going to show you that water softener prep. So as we're looking in here, you see the water lines already. That is going to be for the water softener itself. So we have the input and the output, and then there are 2 valves behind there. We would want to turn those on to get that water softener system to work. So we've got the valve that was in the back, we turn that, and then we turn these 2 valves here, and that allows the water to flow through your water softener system. These 2 lines right here are for your low point drains. So anytime you winterize your coach, you will need to drain these lines out as well. So don't forget that setup anytime you winterize the coach. This access panel right here is covering up our Girard awning controllers and our Starlink internet system. So just giving you a viewpoint of that, these 2 controllers are for your Girard awnings, and these are the equipment for Starlink. So this being the power modem, and this is going to be the router. So every coach that we're building now is equipped with Starlink internet, and we have instructions of how to connect that as well. Just put that cover back on, and then we'll go up to this front compartment here. Well, before we do that, let's talk about what's behind this plastic cover here inside this cargo door. This access panel right here is covering up your hydraulic leveling system. So anytime we would need to get in there, maybe check the fluid, or if we had an issue with it where we had to do a manual retract, all that's accessible behind this panel. So just take out these 6 screws, and that gives you access to your hydraulic leveling system. So as we go up front here, we've got this front fender. This is what we call the run bay. So by pressing that, opens the door. So you're going to see that there is obviously a light for this compartment. Then we have our hydraulic leveling system. Now this is kind of the secondary panel because we would generally operate that leveling system from inside at the center console. This is our fuse panel for various items, so we'll want to be checking that as well. And then we have a button here to open that generator. So the generator door on this is air driven, but you have to have the key on in order for that to operate. So we'll show you how that operates in just a second. This bottom panel here does have a small little tab on it, and that small little tab is to be able to pull it out. So we're going to go ahead and take that cover off and show you a couple things behind that access panel. So to take this access panel out, just pull this little tab, and this is going to come all the way out here, and then you just kind of got to give this a little bit of a wiggle. Again, it's just Velcroed on, and that gives us some accessibility to some fuses and breakers that are underneath this panel. This black panel right here is the chassis PDC, so just got a couple little thumb screws on it there. Take that off, and it's got a label on the back side that tells you what those fuses and relays are underneath there. Just above that are going to be 4 mini breakers. The 2 mini breakers in the center of that are manual reset. That goes to your driver and passenger seat. So anytime your driver or passenger seat stops working, maybe we twisted it around and we pulled one of the connections out and it blew a breaker, that's going to be resettable down here in this front fender. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put this back together, and then we will show you how this generator door opens and closes. All right, so we're ready to open the generator door. We've turned the ignition on, we've got air pressure, the parking brake is set. Just by using this button here on the extend side, that allows that generator door to come open, giving us access to inside that generator compartment. So a couple things we want to talk about inside the generator compartment. Number one is the generator itself. You have a start and stop button right here on the generator, as well as a breaker. We want to make sure that those both are on. When we start the generator, and let's say we don't have any power coming to the coach, usually it's going to be because this breaker has been turned off or has tripped. So make sure we're checking that breaker as well. A couple other things inside this generator compartment is that quick connect down here at the bottom. That's going to be for that hose that we can control back in the back. So we turn on the hot and cold. It is a quick connect here. That gives us the ability to wash the front of the coach with the hot water right here. The other thing on this side is the windshield washer fluid. So we've just got to fill that reservoir. Anytime we're using the windshield washers, that's where we would check for that. Another thing that's inside here, and we'll have to get a closer look up inside the generator compartment itself, is right about here is the dash air system. There is a filter that can be changed out on that dash air filter, the dash system itself. So there's a couple little screws on the side. We would take that off, and then we have the ability to slide that filter out, and replace it with a new filter. So we'll give you a little better video on that as well when we can get up inside that compartment. All right, now that we've gone around the entire outside of the coach, we're going to take a moment, go inside, we'll run the slide outs out, and then we will go through the inside of the coach and show you some key features in there as well. One thing we want to remember before we run those slide outs out, that the vehicle needs to be at ride height. So we're going to go in, verify that it's at ride height, we're going to run all the slide outs out, and then we will continue on through the inside of the coach. All right, now that we're inside the coach, we've got all 4 slide outs out. We're going to take a walk around the inside of the coach. We'll start right here at the passenger seat and all the controls that are here, and just walk our way all the way around the coach, kind of in a U like we did on the outside, and we'll end up back here at the dash. So first thing, we walk inside the door, there's some switches down here on the passenger side console. You're going to have the main power switch, which has the red light beside it. That is just turning on all the power, the 12-volt power to the inside of the coach. Then you're going to have a step light and a step power. So step light is just lighting up this entryway here and outside. The step power is actually an override switch where we can make the steps stay in the out position or the extended position when you open and close the door, so that that step is not running in and out every time you open the door to go in or out of the coach. You don't have to wait on the step. We can lock it in the out position. The next switch panel up is for the Firefly system, the touch pad for the Firefly system. That's going to operate your exterior lights, awning lights, porch lights, security lights, and also have a master light switch that will turn on all the interior lights of the coach. Then directly above that is going to be the step slide switch. What that does is extend or retract the step slide cover here, so it covers up this entire step area while you're driving down the road. Sitting here, your feet are just not dangling. You actually have a surface to put your feet on. So that is the step cover extend and retract button. Then we have our passenger seat here with our controls. It is a 6-way seat, front, back, up, down, footrest, power recline, and also has a headrest on it this year as well. So that's going to be our chair. Now the chairs will swivel all the way around, and we're going to get in some in-depth videos of how all that stuff works as well, but the seat has to be all the way forward, and then we swivel that all the way around, kind of in an entertainment mode where we can be facing the back of the coach here and have company and have a conversation. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. Inside this passenger overhead, we're going to go in and look at these switches. So we have, first off, the Winegard Razor controller. This is for your off-air antenna. So just by simply turning this on, it's going to search for a signal. Now we are currently inside a building, so it's really probably not going to give me a whole lot of channels. Comes up with 1, so it tells you we're inside a building. But what that does is it will search for the available signal. It will tell you how many channels it's found, and then you can fine-tune by turning this left or right. Anytime you want to search for another selection, you can hit the search button. It'll go through the automated search again. All right, so we're going to go ahead and turn that off so it's not searching while we're inside the building. The next controller here is for your slide outs. It has all 4 slide outs, and it has individual buttons for extend and retract. Now you can only run 1 slide out at a time. This is something that changed. If you're coming from a previous Entegra, you could run multiple slide outs at the same time. So we have changed that software so that now you only run 1 slide out at a time. The key about our slide outs is, number 1, you need to have the vehicle at ride height. So you want to make sure that the coach is at ride height as if you were driving down the road. Secondly, we want to make sure that we're not overextending or over retracting those slides. So by extending the slide outs, you press the extend button, let it go all the way out. When it gets towards the end, you're going to start to hear that motor bog down. As soon as that motor bogs down is when we release that switch, because it will continue to run for a couple milliseconds after. And what that does is it puts the pressure on the outside wall. Now, if we continue to hold that until the slide out stops on its own, we've actually applied way too much pressure to the outside wall and to our fascia board, which could create damage over time. So we want to try not to do that as much as possible. The next switches here are the air conditioner overrides. So the AC overrides for the front, middle, and rear, they're labeled AC1, AC2, and AC3. That is truly for emergency purposes only. So in the event that our system, our automation system here is down, maybe we have a network issue and it is not operating from that touchscreen, we have the ability to come up here and manually force the air conditioners on. Now this is only air conditioner mode, so it's only in the cool mode. What that does is it bypasses all the safeties and all the other electronics in that air conditioner, and it just runs the fan on high and runs the compressor. So things that we have to worry about, because we are overriding some of those safety features in the AC, is that we cannot run these for an extended period of time. Really, the rule of thumb is simply this. You turn on one air conditioner, you let it run for 30 minutes, then you turn it off and turn on another one. The neat thing is that all of our air conditioners are ducted together. So you will get that cooler air throughout the entire coach, not just in one zone. Obviously, it'll have more pressure in one zone, but you can cool down the entire coach with one air conditioner using these emergency overrides. So again, we've got those instructions in our user guides and in our manuals as well. You'll be able to go and look at those again. In the front overhead right here is your Traveler satellite system. So this is the controller for the Traveler satellite dish on the roof. We do allow you to pick your option on this, where you can get either DirecTV, Dish Satellite, or a Shaw for Canadian satellite as well. So that is just the controller for that. If you call us and say, hey, where is that controller at? It's going to be right up here in this passenger side overhead. Another component that's in here is what we call the ignition lockout box for your front overhead TV. So that ignition lockout box, basically what we have to do is lock out this TV from operating while the coach is driving down the road. So while the ignition is on, that's a lockout box that prevents this TV from coming on while you're driving down the road. Just something that we have to put in there. All right, so we're going to continue to walk through the coach here and show you some of the key features and some of the things that are in here that you need to know off of your delivery form. Obviously, we're going to get into the furniture. We're going to get into the electronics. Again, we're going to come back and do actual videos where we're in detail explaining how all this works. We'll open up all the sofas. We'll air up the mattresses. All the electronics, the same thing as well. We'll go through each one of those items in depth and show you how those operate, how to connect to them, and that sort of thing. So right here on the wall is our first switch. That's going to be another Firefly switch that's going to be able to operate the front section of this motorhome. Lights, shades, things of that nature will be on that particular screen. As we're moving back into the slide out, we're going to get into the entertainment center. So I'm just going to show you that TV is a TV lift itself. So we're going to go over and touch the button for that just to show you that TV, how that comes up. Just a toggle switch over here on the wall. That'll bring that TV up, and we will also take that down. Now we want to have that TV in the down position anytime we're traveling, anytime we're driving down the road. We really want to have that in the down position. It's really just for the safety and for the equipment. We want to have that thing stored in its right place. Inside this overhead is going to be some of the connection points we have for the satellite system and for the TVs. So we'll just open up both of them and talk and explain a little bit of how this works. So in this compartment right here is space for you to put your satellite receiver. Regardless of what you choose to put in here, you can put your satellite receiver right here. We do have a 110 plug on the wall, and then we have a wall plate in the back. That wall plate does give you the option to hook up either your roof-mounted satellite or your stationary satellite that you would hook up outside that yard dish that we were talking about previously. So we already have the feed coming into here. You would connect to that, to the back of your receiver, and then we would take an HDMI cable from your receiver, take it across the cabinet here, and it's going to hook up to the back of your matrix. So the matrix itself, what that matrix is doing is going output to all 4 TVs in the coach, and we can input 4 different devices. So we have your Blu-ray player. You would put your satellite system on there. We do have the dash radio on there as well, and then you have an auxiliary port where you can plug in anything you want, whether you wanted to put an Apple TV in there, you wanted to put a digital photo album, you could put that in there as well, and you could display it on all 4 TVs. So the components that are in here, space for your satellite receiver here, and then you have your matrix system over here where we would tie that into the back of your matrix, your satellite receiver, so that it goes to all your TVs. Moving down through the slide out, this is a hide-a-bed sofa, so these cushions come out. Again, we'll go over details of how that operates as well. Coming into the kitchen portion, inside your kitchen cabinet, the way that we're going to ship the coach is with all your remotes sitting here inside the kitchen cabinet, and also this is going to be shipped loose in the cabinet. That is going to be your pump, your air pump for your hide-a-bed mattress in the sleeper sofa, and you've got your trays up here at the top as well. All right, moving down here to the microwave, we want to give you a couple details about the microwave. This is a convection oven, and there is a vent on the outside of the coach. This is what's important, is that vent on the outside gets opened prior to using the microwave or the convection oven. That is to vent the heat out the coach. If we don't open that up, we're trapping some in here, and then we're going to get this temperature off on this microwave and convection oven. Just above it is a small little cabinet, storage compartment, and what's inside this is the stove cover. So if we just pull this out, that's just going to be a cover that's perfectly fit, matches the interior of your coach, and that is to cover that stove. So that is a protection because that is a glass cooktop. So we want to keep that on there as much as possible anytime we're in motion somewhere, we can put and store this, or we're using that stovetop, we can put this right back in here and store it in place. Close that cabinet back up. The stovetop itself is 110. That is a induction cooktop, so you have to have specific induction cookware to use on the stovetop. The one thing you have to remember about this is that it is a total of 10. So when we say a total of 10, you have 2 burners, you can only have a total of 10 on that burner setting. So we can have 6 on this larger burner and 4 on the smaller burner. That's our total of 10 we're talking about, because it is only a 110 element. We can only get to 10 collectively between the 2 burners. The next thing in the kitchen here is your dishwasher. So the dishwasher right here, this is an option that you can have and put the dishwasher in, or you can have some cabinets here. But on the dishwasher itself, it does have a lock. This is the most important thing about the dishwasher, is before you get driving in your coach, you want to make sure that that door is locked and in place. So to lock that door, and I'm going to guess, yep, there we go. So it's open. It just got done with a cycle. We want to go ahead and lock the door. So there is a small lock icon right here, second button in. What we're going to do is press and hold that button, and we're going to listen for multiple beeps. Not just after the first one, that's just the keypad. We get the second one, and there the door has locked. Now that drawer is not coming out, okay? So that's something that we want to remember. All right, so now we're going to make our way back through the rest of the coach, talk about the bathroom and the bedroom. We'll go back into the rear bath and the closet, and we'll explain some of the things that we have going on in there. All right, so as we're heading back towards the back of the coach, in the center here, we're going to have our automation system. This is going to be the Firefly screen, and also we have the Victron charge controller as well. So we'll come back and talk about those in detail here in just a little bit. Put that back on there so we don't lose it. Before we go into here, we want to talk about a couple more things here. On this sidewall, you have the little black sensors. That is your thermistors. And then obviously we have the CO detector down at the bottom as well. So on the thermistors, this is for your air conditioner. The one down at the bottom is for the floor heat. They are separate so that we are calculating the temperature of the floor and the room air temperature as well. So that's key to know when you go to operate your floor heat, which all of our coaches are equipped with the hydronic floor heat as well. So just keep in mind that's what that sensor is for. In the half bathroom, you're going to have a Macerator toilet on this particular floor plan. So the control for that is on the back wall there. You have the economy flush and you have a regular flush. It does have a sensor on it, so it will give you when the tank is empty, mid, and full. It gives you those percentages in green, yellow, and red. Now that is a completely separate monitoring system on that toilet. It has its own monitoring system for the tanks as opposed to what's on the Firefly screen. So just keep that in mind. They could read different at times. So we just got to keep that in mind, that they are a completely different system. One may be reading right and the other one may be reading wrong. Maybe something stuck on the inside of the tank. That's usually what is happening in that scenario. So just something to keep in mind. Also in the half bath here, in the split mirror compartment, there is going to be a fuse panel in here, and also there's going to be another Firefly controller back behind this wall. So this is just an access panel which is removable. In the event that we need it, we can get inside there and check that wiring and anything. But generally it's just going to be looking for these fuses, vent fans, and for our ceiling fan, that sort of thing is going to be inside this fuse panel. So coming back out of the bathroom here, one thing to note about that half bath is that it does have a register underneath there that is with an Aqua-Hot heat exchanger. However, that Aqua-Hot heat exchanger is not going to have any forced air going into that bathroom. A lot of people question that. Well, there's a heat exchanger, but I don't feel any heat being blown out of there. That is by design. That is just there for radiant heat. We don't actually turn that fan on because it would get way too hot inside that half bath. All of our rooms are separated by pocket doors. This one is no different when we walk into the bedroom. This is going to have a double pocket door here, so it goes the entire length of the opening here. So you see that it has 2 separate doors, just to show you how that works. There is a lock on here, that's this. So this is what's going to lock it in place. When we push that door in, it snaps into place, and then to get that open is here. Now, inside here underneath these pocket doors is an air actuated plunger that comes up and hits the bottom of that door while you're driving down the road. So anytime you release the park brake, you'll probably hear that little slap on the bottom of that door. That is just that air ram coming up, hitting the bottom of the door and locking this in place. So while we're driving, we don't want to come back and try to force this door out, because we do have an air actuated plunger underneath there that is trying to keep that door on the track and in place. All right, so come back here to the bedroom. We're going to show you a couple little things here. Obviously we have our ceiling fan. We're going to talk about the switches that are on the overhead here. But underneath the bed there is some storage space, and we want you to utilize the storage space. However, there are some places that we do not want you to store anything. So looking underneath the bed, you have two separate storage compartments, the left side over here and you have the right side over here. And then there's this center section. In that center section we have an Aqua-Hot heat exchanger. We also have the slide out mechanism itself. And there's several wires that are kind of routed through there. A couple of them are clamped to the floor, but some of them are loose. And the reason those are loose is because as the slide out moves in and out, that wiring has to move with it. So I know while you see that open and available space, you think, gee, I could really store a lot of stuff in there. Maybe put some blankets down there, or we've had a couple people put a box of wine down there. Now that is not the proper place to be storing anything, because once we set something on those wires and then this room comes in and out, it can pull those wires out of its place, and that causes a loose connection, which could cause the entire lighting system in the coach to go down. I only say that because we've seen that happen before, and it was a box of wine, so I'm not being crazy when I say box of wine. All right, so just be mindful of what we're storing down there. Again, not a place to put real heavy stuff because that does move in and out, so we don't want to put an entire set of china for an 8-place setting inside those storage compartments. That's a little too heavy for the slide out room. On the switches on the overhead, you will have your fan switch, which is just going to be a white switch here. We'll get some shots of that as well. And then you have your touch screen for your Firefly system that allows you to operate the shades and the lights within this room. The next thing we're going to do is come back in here into the rear bathroom. So again, we have another toilet, Macerator toilet. You'll be able to see that controller there on the wall, where we have the normal flush and we have an economy flush, and we have the green indicator light on there showing that these tanks are empty. We move back into our shower. So the shower door does have a lock on it. This is key to have this locked all the time when we're not using the shower. Only reason I say that is driving down the road, this could open. And if that does open, you're going to end up with a lot of broken glass because this will come back and hit the door. Couple things we want to talk about in the shower. Obviously, you have your handheld sprayer. You've got your normal sprayer that's fixed to the wall. But the key thing that's in here is the Showermiser. So you see the little blue dot down there. That is part of the Showermiser, and the valve that's just above the shower fixture here, that's this one. That's for the Showermiser. What that does is you get in the shower and the water's not quite as hot as you want it to be. You can turn that valve. That recirculates the water back into the fresh water tank, which allows it to go back through the heater again. So it comes back up to temperature. When it gets to the hot temperature, at least the hottest it's going to go, that little blue circle is going to turn to a grayish color, and then you know that your temperature of your water is hot and you can use it. So then you'd turn that valve and it would then again bring the water back through that faucet. So remember that. Good thing to use the Showermiser, and then always lock that shower door when you're done. Now the thing about the Showermiser, like I said, it does go back to your fresh water tank. So you could be hooked up to city water, and anytime you use the Showermiser, you are inadvertently filling your fresh water tank. So keep that in mind. Anytime we use that Showermiser, we're putting water into the fresh water tank. Over time, that's going to fill that fresh water tank up and overflow if we're not monitoring. So just make sure that we monitor that anytime we're hooked up to city water using the Showermiser. So we're going to step back here into the rear closet area. So what we're going to show you back here is the washer and dryer cabinet. So we have the washer and dryer here. Washer is going to be on the bottom, dryer's on the top. There are some maintenance items that you guys need to be aware of. So inside the dryer, that is the lint trap. Again, just like with your house, make sure that you are emptying this out and cleaning that lint trap every time you do laundry. So anytime you take clothes out of the dryer, it's always a good practice to clean this out. The thing is, if you get that built up and then it gets outside that trap, it goes through the duct and goes outside, and then you get that stopped up as well. So we want to make sure we clean that outside vent portion as well. As far as maintenance on the washer, it is best after you use the washer, if you have time, you're not traveling, to leave that door open so that it can dry the inside of that drum out. Otherwise, you see the moisture like this is right here. That moisture will build up in there, and we really don't want that to be building inside there. That creates mildew and mold. By leaving this open, it'll allow it to dry out. Now, anytime you're going to be driving the coach, you do need to have this closed. Otherwise, it's going to sit and rattle up against this door, creating noise, and then also putting a rub mark on the back, so we don't want to do that. The other maintenance item that is in this washer is that there is a filter in the drain. So just like your residential washer, there's a small, that discharge hose comes out, and you can put a small screen on there to collect, dollar bills, pennies, toothpicks, mints, and things that get left in the blue jeans. We know how it happens. So the way to get to that is there is a small plastic bar down at the bottom, 3 screws. Take the 3 screws out. then the bottom of the washer, that bottom plate, actually comes off, and you can unscrew that screen. It's like just like your refrigerator filter. Quarter turn, pull that out. It is going to drain some water out of the bottom of that, but not to worry. There is a pan down there that will collect that water. So don't worry about cleaning that up. That water is going to drain right out inside into the engine compartment and go down on the ground. No problems there at all. But clean that screen out regularly so that you're not getting that thing clogged up. Also on the back side here, inside the closet, there's access to the back there where you can get to the drain lines, you can get to the fresh water hookup, and we can get to the dryer vent hose as well. Should we have to get in there and get to anything, there's an access panel here. The rest of this is storage. We've got a dresser here with an Aqua-Hot heat exchanger underneath it, and then we'll move forward into the rear bath. So in your double vanity, you're going to have your controller here for your lights. This is going to control these lights here. This particular switch is for your closet area here. So just a toggle switch. There's several different switches throughout the coach that have different functions and different operation. This is just a simple toggle that allows you to turn your closet lights on and off. As we move forward, going back into the bedroom here, we're going to talk about the two dressers, side-by-side dressers. This one here is just simply a dresser where we can put a closet rod at the top, and we have a couple adjustable shelves. But on this side over here, we've got some electronics. So on this side, we are putting our Blu-ray player for the bedroom system here, and there's a 1x2 splitter. That 1x2 splitter allows you to plug something else into this wall plate and run through the 1x splitter to get it to the TV. Now when we're talking about the TV, this is on kind of a little trap door here. So it just hinges up, the TV will come up, and that is where you will find our safe behind this TV. Now one thing I can tell you about the safe, it is programmable. You need to go in, it does have a master key on it. Make sure you save that master key, keep it in a safe place, not inside the safe, but keep that master key in a safe place where you don't lose it, and set up a security code here on this safe. So there's batteries, instructions inside the safe. Set that up as soon as you get it so that you can put this key up somewhere safe, and you're only using this keypad, and you have that key to fall back on should you ever forget that or the batteries go out in that safe. So we'll keep moving right up here, going back into the front of the coach, into the living room. This is going to be our dinette slide out, and where we have the pantry. So one key thing about the pantry are the drawers. This is going to have drawers top to bottom. Here's the key about the drawers. Now they do have a small lock on them. This is where we want to make sure that you pull it, you feel it click. When you're done, you want to push this back in. Don't just push it in until it stops. Push it until you actually feel and hear that click that locks it in place. If we don't do that, this door's not going to close all the way. Driving down the road, turn a corner, this is going to come out and spill anything you have in there, most likely, which is not a very good day. Refrigerator, freezer. This does have the ice maker, so it's going to have a filter on the inside as well that we'll want to make sure we maintain. Anytime we go to winterize or sanitize, we want to make sure we take those filters out. But the key thing on the refrigerator, freezer are these locks. So this is what we call a travel lock on the refrigerator and freezer. We want to make sure that those are locked before we ever travel, because what we don't want, again, turning the corner and these things swinging open and dropping half your refrigerator contents out on the floor. Not a very good day, and it's hard to clean up. As we get to the dinette table, this is a dinette booth. It does have the storage drawers underneath. So these storage drawers are simple, just a small little latch underneath here that you pull out, and the drawer will open. Now these are small storage areas. Again, not a place that we want to put all of our heavy stuff. Like, for instance, this is a really nice, convenient little box that you could probably fit maybe 10 gold bars in there. Again, probably too heavy for this slide out. So be mindful of what we're storing in those. The dinette table itself is a sliding table, so it will come out even further. It'll extend, but it does have a travel lock on the bottom. So we want to first make sure we release the travel lock, and then we can extend that out. Not a whole lot, but it does give you a little bit of extra, and we kind of need that to go back in for the slide outs to close. All right, anytime we push that back in, just get in the habit, if you push that back in, that you automatically set that travel lock. That way we don't forget about it before we take off driving. The front sofa here is going to be the theater seating with a power headrest. So this controller here is for your power headrest, which is going to make the headrest go up and down. And then the black switches here are going to be for the reclining. So pushing this front one will allow the recliner to come out, and then you can put it back into the stored position here with the back side. All right, So let's take a minute. We're going to get set up here around the dash. Then we're going to go around all the switches and everything around the dash compartment. All right, now that we're sitting here in the driver's seat, we're just going to kind of make our way all the way around the dash here and talk about the different functions and the buttons and switches and things in the dash. So if we start on the driver's side console over here, we'll work our way from the back all the way up. You have your tag dump that has a hold, and it has an auto on it. So when we put it in auto, what that does is anytime you put the coach in reverse, it will automatically dump the air in the tag axle, so it reduces the scuff as we're making the corner. If you're going to make a very, very tight turn, and when we say tight turn, like you're doing a U-turn and you're just going to drive circles because you have nothing else to do, we can drive circles, but we need to press that tag dump switch so it releases the air in the tag dump so that it's not scuffing those tires. Now, it doesn't physically lift the tag dump, it just takes the air pressure out of the bag, so it just kind of floats and we don't have added pressure down on that wheel. The next switch over is going to be the column tilt, so that's going to be making the steering column go up and down. So that just moves it further away from me or brings it closer back to me. The other thing is going to be the telescope, again bringing that closer to me or moving that further away. So that's toggle switch over here on the dash. We can also get to that through the center console, which we'll see here in just a minute. The next switch up is going to be for your generator. That's to start and stop the generator. So from the driver's seat, we can start and stop the generator. Then the middle switch here at the top row is the battery boost. That battery boost is that auxiliary start we were talking about. The solenoid that's down in the basement that connects the house batteries to the chassis batteries. That switch, if you press and hold, we're joining those two batteries together. And let's say we had low chassis batteries, couldn't get the engine started. We could essentially push this button down, let those two batteries connect, give it about 5 minutes or so, and then we can try to start the engine. That gives us enough battery power to be able to start the engine. The next one over is going to be the dome lights. That's just these two lights right here above us. Above the driver and passenger seat, we can turn those on and off. So the next component that's up on this driver's side console is the Allison Shift Pad. That's for your transmission. Again, kind of self-explanatory here with the R being reverse, the N being neutral, and the D being drive. But when you are in drive, it's going to display a number on that touchpad. So it's going to be 1 through 6. That is telling you what gear you are currently in. Now you can manually shift that by using the up and down arrows. And also there is a mode button. So the mode button will allow you to put this coach into economy mode. You're basically putting the transmission into an economy mode. The only time you ever want to use that economy mode is if you know you're going to be driving just on a flat plane, no hills, no ups and downs, no starts and stops. What that does is changes the algorithm of when this shifts. So it will allow it to actually shift less, which kind of saves some fuel, but at the same time you have no pickup. So if you're going up and down a hill, you're going to have the other guy passing you if you're using economy mode. Take the economy mode off if you're going up and down the hill. That way you can keep up with traffic. The next switch is over here is going to be our park brake. That is just for your parking brake. You push it in to release it and pull it out to set it. And then the next switches over here are your headlights. So we do have automatic daytime running lights anytime the park brake is released. The switches over here are going to be to turn on your headlights manually, and you also have your fog lights, and you have a dimmer switch. So that controls the backlighting on all your switches in the dash area is the dimmer switch. Coming into the steering column here, we've got 3 separate pods here of the steering column. And so we'll just start over here all the way to the left. This pod here is going to be for your cruise control and for your headlight flash. So that's the courtesy flash of your headlight. Push and release, and that just flashes your headlights. That's to tell somebody thank you for letting me get over, or to flash somebody, hey, there's danger coming up. The other sets here are for your cruise control. So by turning on and off right here in the center, then you have set and resume. You can also set your high idle from here. So anytime you're trying to air up your coach or you're sitting somewhere, anytime you're going to be setting somewhere for more than 10 minutes with the engine running, you want it to be in high idle. So turn the cruise control on, push the resume button. It'll go up to 1,000 RPM. If we need it to go higher, we can press and hold that. It'll go all the way up to 1,500 or 1,600 RPM, and it'll hold that idle right there. Okay, to cancel it out, just hit cruise cancel, or you can simply put your foot on the brake and that will cancel it out. Now there's going to be 2 little levers over here on the side. Those 2 little levers are going to be to answer your phone. So anytime you get a phone call, you can pick up the phone call or end the phone call from here. And the other one is going to be for your engine brake. So the actual engine brake that's on the coach is going to be controlled by one of these little toggles, which you pull it towards you, that turns the engine brake on, you push it away from you, and that changes the level. We have low, medium, and high that we can choose for our engine brake. So that's all on that left pod. On the right side pod here are your marker lights. That's to flash, again, a courtesy flash of your marker lights. And then you have your wiper controls here in the center. So we do have an automatic rain sensor. So anytime you turn the ignition on, the automatic rain sensor is active. So your wipers are active anytime you turn the key on from the very start. It gets a certain amount of water on the windshield and it detects that, and it will automatically wipe the windshield off based on how much water is on there. So it will automatically run that delay for you. You can turn that off by hitting the off button here, and then you have your high and low button as well. The center pod here is to wash the windshield off, so that activates the washer and wipes the windshield. One thing we want to remember about the windshield wipers is try not to dry wipe the windshield. They are very, very large wipers. I think they're right around 33 inches, so very big span, and that creates a lot of drag, especially if it's dry. So we want to make sure there's moisture on there before we're running those wipers. The last button on here is for the air horn. All that does is activate the air horn. That's the difference between using the regular street horn or using the air horn that comes off of the air system. The two little toggles here are going to be for your volume control to the radio, and then you have whether you want the radio to actually be on or to mute it. So volume up and down, we pull this towards us and it'll mute. You push it down and it'll change what that radio is on. All right, so now down to the center pad here. The center pod is going to be a couple different functions to it. So screen view, for one, allows us to change the screen view we're seeing on the digital dash. That's these gauges in front of us. So if we push the screen view button, what it'll do is it'll take the tachometer and the speedometer and it'll move it off to the side, and it will then put the GPS in that center screen. We hit it again and it will put the cameras off of the center screen into the center of our gauges, so we can monitor that really without leaving the road or taking anything away from visibility here. We can just stay focused right here and on the road in front of us. The source button and the two arrows control the radio, so we can change the source whether we're on FM, AM, Bluetooth, Sirius radio, any of those. It'll cycle through that source. And then the arrows here will do your search, so maybe next track or next station. The buttons here in the center are all relevant to our digital dash or the gauges here in front of us. That is to get through the menu of our digital dash. So that'll be the very bottom left-hand corner of the dash will be the menu bar where you'll see your odometer. You can go into settings. You'll see your accelerator position. You can go through and see your tire pressure. That's also where you're going to set your easy steer control. All of those are going to be set up through there. Anytime we want to get back to the odometer setting, which is our home screen, just simply hit the home button here and it takes you right back to the odometer. So a couple other things on the steering column itself. Obviously we have over here our turn signal, but underneath our turn signal is a four-way. We get this question a lot: how do we turn the four-ways on? How do we turn the four-ways off? So there's a little silver bar underneath here. You pull that out towards you, that turns the four-ways on. To get them off, simply just turn your turn signal on, click that turn signal, and it will turn the four-ways off and then go back to the off position. All right, so we're going to take a second here. We're going to get set up here with the center dash. We need to kind of reposition a little bit and we'll get set up with the center dash. All right, so on the center console here, we're going to talk about the camera settings up top here, and then we'll talk about these functions down at the bottom. So on the camera, if you just simply touch the screen, it gives you all your different views here, and it's not going to stay up there very long, but gives you all the different views where we can select all of those different cameras. So this will give you our normal shot that we have right now with the 360 in the rear view. Then we have a full 360, and then it goes through the coach: the rear, the front side, the back side, and then the other side as well, so driver and passenger side. And then we have a full screen 360. So if you were getting ready to park this, let's say you're going into a storage facility, kind of like we're inside a building, you notice these doors here. If we wanted to get a clear view all the way around the coach, what that will do is with this full 360, go to a full 360, it'll turn this entire screen into your coach and its surroundings. So it gives you a better kind of a bird's eye view over the top of your coach where you can see different things. You can notice some of these doors and things are open. So to get out of this, we just simply press the X. Then you have exit, the full screen. It's going to take a moment for this to repopulate because what we're doing is compressing that picture back down. So now we have that back in place. There is another setting that we can look at. These three grid lines right here will tell you to turn the lane guides on. So this is personal preference to you if we want to turn those on. And we hit accept. Then when we put the coach in reverse, you're actually going to have the guidelines back here that show you how close you are to something behind you. That's only going to happen when you put the coach in reverse. All right, so that's pretty much all on the camera system. Let's go down here and talk about this radio system. So we go to the audio system, and this gives you your ability to select your different audio sources. So currently we're set to radio, but when we tap the source button, that allows us to select between Bluetooth, radio, Sirius radio, or your USB. Now the USB that this is referring to is over here on the left-hand side on the driver's side console. There's a USB there, so you can load files on a USB, MP3, MP4, and be able to play that onto your dash radio here. You can create a library, same thing, just select your USB and it'll take you to that. Going down to the climate control, now this is only going to come on if the key is in the on position. If the key is off, it comes up with a little thing that says only operational when ignition is on. So just going through some of the settings here, this is going to be your fan speed. This would be your temperature control, and this is just for the driver's side. If I take the sync off, that allows you to have separate control from the driver and the passenger side. And the passenger also has control through a touch screen on their console. This is going to be the mode selection, whether we want it on face and foot, defrost and foot, or defrost. Now when we hit defrost, it's going to automatically go to high fan and high heat. That is normal. That's how we have that set up and programmed. Also, it will eliminate the ability for the passenger to control their zone separately. When we go to defrost, it locks everything so that the driver has control of that entire zone and controls the temperature and the fan speed. The max AC is just going to turn on the max air conditioner, so it turns on the fan and will activate the recirculate, and then this right here, AC itself, will turn on the compressor. So you also have these switches down below, which is the same thing that operates here. What you'll notice is anytime we turn these, it's going to adjust that function. This is only going to be for the driver control unless we have this in sync, and then we can operate both. So essentially only for the driver unless you have it in sync mode, then you can operate both. Moving down to the next icon here is our shades. Again, with your shades, all of these are power all the way around. We have our day and night. Simply to operate, we select that particular shade. We can undo these and then you select whether day or night. Now we do have this locked out so that you cannot run your night shades down while the ignition is on. You can only run them up. So if I hit this button with these two highlighted here, it would run those front shades up with the key on, but will not allow me to run that down. Again, you will have to select what shade you want to operate and also whether you want the night shade or the day shade. So select the shade itself, the position, and then whether you want the day or night, hit the up and down arrow. On the controls page, you have the ability to do the mirrors, and so the little blue line is indicating what mirror we're adjusting. We can only adjust the top portion of our mirror, so that is on the driver's side. If we want to do the passenger side, just simply touch the passenger side. You have the blue highlighted line here, and then we can move those mirrors up and down. There is a memory setting here, memory 1 and 2, so simply get your mirrors where you want them set, press and hold the memory 1 button, that sets that memory. We can change the mirrors around, maybe for a second driver, and then we would press and hold the memory 2 button, and that saves those settings, and you can always just come back to memory 1, memory 2. The tilt and the telescope are just your steering wheel functions, same function as what we had on the switches on the driver's side console. So it just gives you the idea of what those are doing, and then we have the pedals as well. So the pedal slide allows you to move the pedals closer or further away as you're driving. Just simple in and out there. So we're going to skip the GPS for right now and go over here to the leveling. We're talking about the leveling system. With the key on, you have the ability to use these three here, which is your air leveling system. So the air leveling would be either the travel mode, or we can go into manual mode. Travel mode is going to take you to normal ride height. Manual mode gives you the ability to lower or raise any of your airbags. Now it's not going to allow you to raise one over the other, so it's going to run those in pairs essentially, so we keep from twisting the chassis too much. Auto level is going to simply that, auto level the coach off of the airbags, or if we go to the hydraulic leveling system, that's the jacks, that's controlling the panel outside, which will use your hydraulic leveling system. Again, these can only be ran in pairs, so if we hit the front, which is not going to go down because we have the key on, but you would run those in pairs, front, right, rear, or left. They can only run 2 at a time. You can never run one jack at a time. All right, going down to the phone control here, it's going to tell us to connect the phone because nothing is connected to it currently right now, so just by touching this icon, that walks you through the procedure to connecting your phone to Bluetooth. The light page gives us the ability to operate the different lights on the system. So you have the dome light, which are just the 2 lights here above the driver and passenger. Your docking lights, which are the 6 lights surrounding the outside of the coach, 2 on the driver's side, 2 on the passenger side, and the 2 reverse lights at the back, allow you to illuminate all the way around the coach. Your 2 master lights here, interior and exterior, are going to run the master light, so all on or all off. It also will save the memory. However, there will not be a status update, so it's not going to show like this is highlighted blue. These are never going to show blue when we have it off or on. we're not transmitting that status from the Firefly system. Over here you have the badge light and the accent light. Individual control, the badge light is the Entegra badge on the front and the rear, and the accent light are going to be the C's at the headlights and the brake lights. You can adjust, this is a dimmer control here where we can adjust those down to a certain level. So we can make it whatever level we want, and then also we can turn those onto a timer. So I want those to automatically shut off at midnight every night. We like to have those lights on at night, advertise the Entegra brand product, and it really looks cool. So you turn those on, but I don't want to have to get up at midnight and turn them off, or my neighbors complain that it's too bright and they're trying to sleep. So we can adjust the dim level of that light and then also put it on a timer so it automatically shuts off at a certain time. Now, we did have this badge light on all the time, and essentially that would come back on its own because I do have the ignition on. So the badge lights are on. Anytime you turn the key on, that Entegra badge on the front and the rear is going to come on by itself. The next page down here is going to be the utilities. That allows us to control the temperature of the inside of the coach. So what this is doing is communicating with the Firefly system that tells the air conditioner what temperature we want this front zone. That does have direct correlation with the generator. So if we put this in auto gen start, activated the auto, and we set this temperature, when the coach reaches that temperature and it requires the generator to come on, you can do this while driving down the road, it would automatically turn the generator on and then fire the ACs, then bring that house temperature down to the specified temperature, and then it shuts the air conditioners off and then turns the generator off after a time period. The other thing we have is cargo lock and the entry door lock. This does not have anything to do with your alarm system, just simply a direct lock and unlock to the doors themselves that will not activate the alarm. And then we have the step slide cover, which is the same switch we had over on the passenger side console, but you can operate it from here as well. So we'll go into the settings icon here. Just to give you a little bit, this is our contact information here for Entegra Coach that will get you into our factory service center, into the customer service center that can help you on the road. This QR code is going to be for the valid infotainment system, so that'll give you product manuals. That's also where you're going to find any software updates that we release for this particular equipment, for the CCI, the GIC. There's a component in the driver's side console. That will give us the ability to update those through a QR code. Takes you to a landing page and you download the software and just put it on a thumb drive and put it into the port over here. One of the other things we want to look at is the settings icon right here. The settings icon is going to take you to a screen where you can see the system information. So this is key when we're looking at your software versions. We want to know what current revision you're at. Anytime we would ask you for your revision number, this is what we're looking for right here is revision 0.0.27. That's our current revision right now. You go to network devices, and this gives us those other devices I was talking about when we're CCI, and then we have the passenger touchscreen, we have the CIM. All of those versions are going to be listed, so if there was an issue or anything, something wasn't working, we'd ask you what this version is so that we can determine if it is a software issue or not. So let's back out of that. Go one more back to this screen here. So I'm just going to push settings here because what I want to do is get back to this main page. This TV out. So basically what we can do is we can display the cameras or the navigation to your TVs by simply pushing this icon. That would send the navigation to all of your TVs or the cameras. Now that's going to be done through your matrix system. We'll go over that in detail with one of our detailed videos about how to operate the matrix and what sources come to that. So the last thing we're going to cover on here is the GPS. When we open this GPS, it goes into our mapping system, and this is where you're going to type in what you want to do. Now this is running on Bluetooth, and initially we need to have the internet set up to be able to download our maps. So it's going to find, we're in a building right now, so it's probably going to do a few crazy little things trying to find our location because it's bouncing that signal off the inside of the building. But what we have it set up to is our preferences. You can set it up to how long, how wide, and the weight of this vehicle. If you guys add a trailer or anything, we can go in and set those preferences as well. So something to know about that navigation system. We do release updates from time to time, so just check that QR code to see if we have an available update for that software. So that pretty much wraps up the dash system that we've talked about and the dash system that's in the coach. For more details on things, be sure to follow our videos, and we'll have some more detailed videos coming soon. So back at the Firefly screen, this is going to be our automation screen for the entire coach. So we're just going to go through a couple icons here. Obviously the tabs down the side here are giving you another page. So the home page is what you'd see on a normal basis. That is going to be your master light on and off. This is your room temperatures here, telling you what the temperature is in the room. And then you have your tank gauges here. You can turn the water pump on and off from here. We can lock and unlock the entry door. These down here are going to be some statuses for you, and then generator start and stop, and we have our Aqua-Hot controls right here on the main page as well. This kitchen vent fan is the only way to operate that kitchen vent fan. It's going to be here on the home page, and then we have our battery voltage, both house and chassis, and the AGS auto gen start you can enable right here, press and hold that as well. So we'll just kind of do an overview of what's going on each screen. This is your electrical status page. So it's basically telling you what power you have incoming and how we're charging. It is just going to be giving us a status. All of our charging main stuff is going to be coming from the Victron screen, which we'll get to here in a second. But on your display here, this is one of the key things that we can take away from here. When we're plugged into shore power, this is going to show that we have incoming power. The white line here with the black triangles is telling us where that power is going. So we can confirm by looking at this page, we are plugged in, it is going through the breaker box, it is getting to the inverter charger, and we are actively charging our battery. So that's part of the status there. This center section right here is our EMS. That's the energy management system. So that will tell you if one of those components are not working. Let's say we're plugged into 30 amp power, you had all 3 ACs on and the electric element in the Aqua-Hot, it's going to turn those off. So this right here would say shed off to the side, because what we've done is essentially turn that off so that we have power to run the air conditioners. Well, that's what that is going to do. The rest of this is going to be a status. You have a couple of other options here as well, electrical settings and solar controller. Again, when we do our in-depth video of each one of these components, we'll go back through that to show you those. On the lighting page, this is going to be all of your lighting controls. So you have interior and exterior. Any one of those icons with an arrow on it is a dimmable circuit. So you can see that all these arrows here are dimmable light circuits. This bed reading light does not have that, so it's not a dimmable circuit. You have master light, interior master on and off, and panel lights on and off, and exterior on and off. If we were to go through and change a couple of these, turn a couple off, and then hit the off button, when we hit the on button again, it memorizes that setting and will only turn those on that we had on. Now, if we press and hold the on button for 3 seconds, it turns all of the lights on in the coach. That's kind of the point of having the master light switch. Going down to our temperature controls, this is going to be for your air conditioners and your Aqua-Hot. So we can control our air conditioners here. Each zone is going to have its own control. You'll see we can turn on cool, heat pump, or the Aqua-Hot, and then we turn on auto. So in auto, you set a temperature, and there's an algorithm there that we have in place that it gets to a certain temperature, turns off, or it gets too cold, it turns the heat pump on, it gets too hot, it turns the AC on. So there's an algorithm we have working in the background that operates that. Down across the bottom, you have your bay. That's going to be for the basement, the cargo area, which is only heated. There's no air down there. And then this is your floor. So that is the in-floor heat that we have. Basically what that is using radiant heat. We're circulating that hydronic fluid through the entire floor to create a warm floor for you. Going to the exterior page, so this is going to be the exterior, do slide outs, awnings, and shades if we had them, the outside shades if we had those powered. So it's always going to give you this warning page. Again, always make sure you have plenty of space out there. We want to make sure your clearance is adequate before you run your slide outs out or you run your awnings. Just going to be a reminder here to do that. When we get to this page, you have the option of doing your slide outs or your awnings. So when we look at slide outs, you have the extend and retract. You can only run one at a time. And again, same thing we talked about up front. Make sure you're holding that button. You don't want to overextend or over retract. So as soon as you hear that motor bog down, we want to release that button and allow that slide motor to stop. On the awnings, these are all set up with limit switches, except for the door awning. I believe you have to press and hold that one to get it to stay out. So the rest of these we can do extend and retract. Same thing on the awnings. We can also do this from an app, so we'll show you that here in a little bit as well. On your settings page, this is kind of going to be your troubleshooting page here. You have network diagnostics, where we can go in and see all of these circuits that are on, and it's going to show us whether or not it is on or off. So we'll go in that in a second. Aqua-Hot Diagnostics is the same thing. That's the controller that's down in the basement, is duplicated upstairs. Then you have your settings. So we have a floor plan, switch panels. All of your switch panels in here are wireless, so it will give you those exact connections. And then the mobile app, we'll talk about that as well. So let's go into the network diagnostics. this is where we're talking about it. We'll tell you those circuits that are on. It will also give us some diagnostic on that particular circuit. So there's going to be some pluses and some negatives that show up in here. If everything was turned on, this is giving you what has power output and what has power input, and it's going to tell you whether it's a positive signal or a negative signal. So we can just go through those, see everything that's on. The defaults and devices and faults page is going to give us everything that's connected to the network and its status. So it gives us their firmware and the configuration that it has on it. So that's kind of a troubleshooting tool to understand what's working and what's not. And then anytime we have any faults in the system, it will display it right here on this faults page. Solar controller, diagnostics, that's going to go into the solar settings. We'll go back to the electrical page when we do the in-depth and show you what that is as well. So back to this main page of our settings. When we go into the mobile app, it's going to come up with that code, a QR. You want to download that application, and then you will be able to operate this coach through an app. So the Mira app itself is going to be a Bluetooth-based app. You're only going to be able to operate that inside the coach. We also have the option of getting a Eclipse app, which will allow you to operate your coach anywhere based off the internet. So a couple options that we have to look for there. All right, so that kind of sums up what we have on the Firefly screen. Let's go ahead and move down to the Victron screen and take a look at that. All right, so on the Victron screen here, this is going to be your home page. This is giving us our status of where we're at. This front top left corner here is going to be the grid, so that is basically telling us what we're connected to. If we have shore power here, we are connected to shore power. That gives us our reading here of line 1. Now, we're only using line 1 as the circuit, the inverted circuit, to display, so you are going to have 0 on line 2. This is the inverter down in the basement. It's giving you your status lights. That's the yellow and the green, so we'll get in depth of that as well. And then our AC loads right now, we're actually consuming 416 watts of power. This coming out of the inverter, these little bubbles you see, is the direction that electricity is flowing. So we are currently charging right now. We are at 14.7 volts, 19.5 amps. The battery state of charge is at 100%. To go into some of the settings, just to give you a little idea of how this works, this is going to be our home page. If you tap the screen, you get 2 icons down here. By pressing the menu button, will take us into the devices that are connected to it. So this is your inverter itself. We can go into the inverter and we can see some data on that. Again, we will go in depth in a later video to show you all the different things we can do and also how to connect to this. They do have an app and a portal that we would want to connect to be able to get that information for you. So something that we're going to go into another video and show you. We just wanted to give you the overview of what this controller was. This is your Victron Energy controller that is displaying your status of your charging system on the coach.